Good afternoon. Can't sleep. Pumped iron today. Really felt good. Well, it didn't really feel very good. It just was just good to be back on it again. I tried to take a nap. Didn't do too well. We've got rain coming in. The wind's blowing pretty strongly. You can see the curtain flapping behind me. Pretty bright on my right side. Let me see if I can adjust that light for you to get a better picture here. Yeah, I think it is better to just go ahead and let the camera on this phone take over. Yeah, we still got quite a bit of light coming in from that. Okay, I've got this cell pointed pretty much at me, and I'm going to try to see what it frames up like on this. So, life is a single subject design. It's an experiment. It's a psychology experiment, but it's just one subject. The sad thing is that you really need two lives, one to learn by and the other one to live, but you only get one life. So we learn as we go. And I'm a little on the retarded side, but let that be our little secret because don't tell anybody. I wouldn't want people to know that I'm a slow learner, but I am pretty slow. My mother said my middle initial should be G. Did she say that? I think she did. Because I was so gullible. Well, unfortunately, I guess I was. I guess I still am. That's just an indication of my level of innocence and ignorance and my inability to understand how bad, how evil, how vile other people are, and especially my inability to detect when somebody is lying to me. I do figure it out, but I am slow. Anyway, I didn't even plan on what I was going to talk to you about. I've had a lot of things on my mind. This Will Smith, Chris Rock thing that's going on. Had to watch a couple, 3 videos on it to really understand it. And I have to say that I have to respect both gentlemen. Will Smith should be mentioned first. He does have the senior talent, the more developed talent. He's a great actor. And Chris Rock is just an off the chart kind of comedian. And my hat goes off to him for, I know he could have hammered Will Smith out there in public, and we could have just destroyed him. The guy is a real quick mind, real sharp mind, very quick thinker, thinks quickly on his feet, incredibly talented. Not an untalented actor, not like Will Smith is, but man, when it comes to humor, he's almost a little too quick and too sharp. I feel for Mr. Will Smith. His wife has not treated him fairly or properly. She's failed to respect him, and when there is no respect, there can be no love. A woman has to respect a man. If she fails to respect a man, she doesn't love him, and she never will love him. Mr. Smith, I wish you would advocate for men's rights at this point. I think the number one thing I would recommend you advocate for is that this no-fault divorce stuff goes away so that when people are at fault, the good party can prevail. Marriage is never going to be what it should be until men are treated fairly. And when you have one party to the contract that's rewarded for breaching the contract, you don't have a contract. How can you have a contract? So we need at-fault divorce. And the other thing, Mr. Smith, I would ask you to advocate for the rest of us is that men, by default, are awarded sole custody of their children over the woman, above the mothers. Unless, of course, the guy is a deadbeat or there's good cause, good reason not to give custody to the father. Men have been malaligned, made to be bad guys. You're in a unique position. You can influence others. So please, Will Smith, please, rise up to this occasion and become a champion for us men. I know that you love or love your wife. I know that you want your marriage. I could see the pain. I could sense the pain. I think you could do a lot for us men. There's not going to be any marriages until men like you, noble men, actually rise up and get these legislators to change the laws. Men should be awarded custody of their children. It's in the best interest of society at large and in the best interest of the children. That's really all I want to say about that. Well, I will identify with Mr. Smith. I've been taken advantage of and cheated on as well. And I've been a simp. I'm super simp. My mother reared me in a way that was beneficial to the females, and I wish I had listened to my father more. Dad's advice was much better than Mom's advice. Anyway, what you need to know today is that we're all targets. Oh, Mr. Smith, I got to tell you about something else. You know, this biological technology that's masquerading as being a miracle vaccine, it doesn't meet the legal definition. It's actually been it's been targeted. It actually targets two distinct populations on the face of the earth. And just so you know, this thing has been engineered so it attacks both of us. They've targeted Caucasoids, Caucasians, white males in particular, and African American males, black men. We're the two groups that thing was designed to take out. There are three groups that do not suffer much from it. One group is immune to it, and that would be the Ashkenazis. They don't get it. They aren't susceptible to it. Another group would be the Amish. They aren't susceptible to it as well. And the third group, which isn't quite as resistant as those two groups are, but is nowhere near as vulnerable as your group and my group are, would be the Finns, the Finnish people, who are Caucasoid, Caucasians, who are Israelite descendants. They got a couple IQ points more than most of us have, and they have a higher suicide rate because they're so introspective. By the way, the Finns produce the best sniper in the world, Sumo. More than 700 kills against the Russians during World War II. Little guy had some incredible balls, man. They called him the White Death. And he would hide himself out there in overwhites and with a 6mm bolt-action rifle, open sights. And he would pick them off. It's amazing to what lengths a man will go to when he's highly motivated. Mr. Will Smith, do something for us. Help your people and my people, our people, to understand that we've been targeted. And why these two populations have been targeted is because the enemy is intent upon taking America down. They want to genocide us. And in this case, we're in it together. I never saw your wife before. She's a lovely woman. I understand you care for her and you're protective of her, even though she has besmirched her reputation and your reputation. That pains me dreadfully so. I hope that you will prevail and do the right thing, as painful as it is. Please do the intelligent thing, the rational thing. Don't act upon your emotions. Don't let your emotions get the best of you again. You have strong emotions, my friend, as do I. And you're sensitive, as am I. And you almost came to tears then. And I almost want to cry upon your behalf. So, we got a problem, my friend. They've targeted us in this nation. And we're the ones they're going after. And I got news for you people out there that don't understand what America first means. It means they take down America first. Just like that song you people don't understand. First we take Manhattan, then we take Berlin. They take the Twin Towers down, they take control of our nation. They got a stranglehold on us. And now they've gone after the Germans because they and we are the two most powerful groups, the only ones capable of taking those guys out. Chris Rock, thank you so much for being the better man and taking it on the chin. I don't know where he hit you, if it was on the chin or on the face. Sounded like he'd actually punched you, not just slapped you. You took it, and you didn't retaliate. You had a chance to, by your wits, prevail over a man you recognize as suffering, and you didn't take a cheap shot. That's pretty good. That's really good. It does show you you're a bigger man, even though you're a small stature. It does show that you've really got some fortitude. Folks, we got a problem in the world today. The enemy knows who they are, and they know who we are. But we don't know who they are, and we don't know ourselves. We don't know who we are. So you need to understand some things. This war started actually a long time ago, before the Garden of Eden. According to Pastor Wesley Swift, a man of superior intelligence, and he knew his military intelligence was so superior that the FBI visited him many times and demanded to know where he got his information, because he knew the number of weapons that we had and the number of weapons that the Soviets had. And I still don't know how the man got that. But he was such a danger to the establishment that when he went on vacation in 1974 to Mexico, they murdered him. That's my opinion. They poisoned him. His widow lived quite a bit longer. I believe she passed away in about 2005, 2006. My initial impressions of Pastor Swift, Wesley Swift, was that his voice was riveting. I couldn't get it out of my mind. I didn't appreciate that much. And he just machine gunned these details into you so quickly and with so much authority. I missed the fact he was citing Scripture. Actually, I don't think he cited Scripture in those early days I listened to him. It was only recently I listened to him, and he did know the Scriptures very well. So, Mr. Will Smith, the first record of Negroes on the planet, the black woolly-haired ones to be specific, to quote the Chinese records, was written down by the Chinese approximately 50,000 years ago. And the entry in the Chinese records, which I haven't read, so I'm sorry, this is second or third hand, says that we never saw the black woolly-haired ones until the arrival of the white devils. According to Wesley Swift, that was approximately 50,000 years ago. And the white devils were these huge Caucasoids. They were the fallen ones, according to Wesley Swift. They were the fallen angels. And these white devils became noted in the Chinese literature as white devils, and their word for white devil translates Caucasian. So, if you want to know who some racists are, however it's with cause, it'd be the Chinese for calling us white devils. The sad thing is, first impressions are often lasting, and these guys look so much like us regular Caucasians, the descendants of Adam, and those who weren't descendants of Adam but were okay anyway, that the Chinese classified us as them. It was such an amazing thing that the Chinese actually created their religion based upon the worship of what they called the dragons. And in China, there are prospectors who go prospecting for dragon's teeth. What are dragon's teeth? Well, the tooth is probably the most resistant to DNA deterioration. And the dragons that they refer to are actually these Caucasoid giants. So they go prospecting for them and they get the teeth. They take the teeth, they powder them up, and on the market, I don't think it's a black market, but I think it's a pretty small market, they get big bucks because this is fallen angelic DNA. And the people that pay big bucks for it are descendants of the fallen angels, and they ingest it in order to maintain the strength of their fallen angelic DNA. Wesley Swift said it was 50,000 years ago. However, Pastor James P. Wigstrom says it was 70,000 years ago. I'm not going to argue about 20,000 years. I certainly wasn't there. And it appears as though what happened was there was a big war in space, and Michael was the captain for the good guys, the angels of their first estate who didn't leave it, the 2/3 of the heavenly host that remained loyal to Yahweh. And Michael fought them in outer space and prevailed, and he forced them to crash land their 3 giant spaceships on the face of the earth down to Antarctica. Now, you folks who are worried about Antarctica because that ice shelf fell off into the ocean, look, Antarctica is going to continue to heat up. It's going to become ice-free. The last time it was ice-free was in the 1500s. We have good evidence of that. We have a famous map from the 1500s, and it's a map of the land of Antarctica, and they couldn't have mapped it unless it was barren. So we had explorers down there mapping that place, and that's why we have those maps. The Vatican doesn't want you to know about those maps. This is just part of the regular heating and cooling cycles of the earth, dictated by the sun. Let's talk about the devil. These people worship the sun. That's their god. Why? Because they know that the sun controls life and death on the planet. They also know that the sun, at periods like this, in the past, has thrown giant lightning bolts at us, if you will. We've had plasma storms on the surface of the earth. I don't know how to describe them. All I can tell you is the ancient ones drew pictures of them in the rocks for us and in the caves. All around the planet, the same pictures. So we know this is a universal phenomena, and these guys didn't have phones. They didn't have telegraphs. They didn't communicate with one another, yet they all drew the same images. We've got, what do they call it? Squatting Man. That's a famous one. You've also got the menorah. It's not a Jewish symbol. It's actually a symbol that was observed in the skies during these giant plasma storms on the earth. And we're going to get them again. It's a seasonal thing. And it's probably the season to get those. And the evil ones, knowing very well what's coming, are going to want to lie to you and not tell you the truth. They don't want you to prepare. They don't want you to understand anything. And the more they can keep you off center and off balance, the better. They like it that way. Yes, there's global warming caused by the sun. The sun actually does a micronova on a regular basis. They don't want you to know that. The sun also puts out flares big enough to wipe out life on the surface of the planet on a regular basis. They don't want you to know that. They want you to think that it's global warming so they can tax you for the carbon dioxide emissions and have more control over you. Yes, carbon goes up in the atmosphere, but it doesn't cause global warming. It's a result of the Earth's warming up, which is caused by the sun. As a matter of fact, there was a time called the Coniferous Age. I think I'm saying that right, Carnivorous Age, in which there were giant trees all over the earth. And I mean big trees all over the place. In the bottoms of some lakes, we've got the old trees still there. So we've had periods in which the plants flourish because of that. Oh, and by the way, when the earth warms up, human populations do better. We get more people during these periods of warming. When the earth cools off, like it did in the Little Ice Age, people don't do so well. Crops don't do so well. Animals don't do so well. So don't worry about global warming. Every part of this planet has had a different kind of ecosystem, a different kind of climate, a different kind of weather, if you will, at different times. The Sahara Desert was lush at one time, and we might see the Sahara Desert return lush again. Oh, and the cedars of Lebanon, the forest of Lebanon, we might see it grow there again in the Promised Land. We just might see that all sprout up again. And we've had other places that have been deserts that might become deserts again. They worship the sun, Apollyon, Apollo. And at this giant table over in Kazakhstan, they have the sun, their god, in the middle of the table. And at this giant round table, each one of the major religions of the world has got their seats, subservient to the sun god, subservient to Lucifer, subservient to what they call the devil. Now, in the Bible, there's the word Barak. Barak has a couple of meanings. One is my lightning sword. Another is my glittering sword. Another is my double-edged sword. And I believe it's in Leviticus where it's first mentioned, where Yahweh is speaking, and he says, I will use my glittering sword against mine enemies, those who hate me. So, folks, you understand that the purpose of evil is to correct us. You understand that God created evil to sift us, to find out if we would be loyal, and we're not doing a very good job. You also need to understand that the evil ones do their best to mimic God, to imitate God. They want to be God. They want to ascend on high upon God. And that's probably why that Luciferian angel seduced Eve. He figured, I'll become a member of God's family. He can't reject me then. Not if I'm married to his daughter, he can't. And then he would get our inheritance. So that's part of what this big fight is. I'm doing my best to paint the picture of it, this thing, as richly as I can and get this information out as quickly as I can. I need you to shore yourselves up. You need to pray to Yahweh. Pray to Yahweh that he will show you his will, right? You want to know what his will is? And then pray he gives you the resources, the gumption, the wherewithal, the cojones to do his will. And then he protects you. And understand that there's a reward for performing his will. And in case you don't know where that is in the Bible, it's in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. A double witness. It's in the Bible twice. In the NIV Study Bible, these are called the blessings for obedience. And they're so long. Read those. And then you have the curses for disobedience. They're twice as long. There is an order to them, but they can occur in any which way you want. Read those. Now, when I read those, I was reading about my nation, my country. I was reading about the United States of America. You need to read that. I don't care if you're black or if you're white, you need to read that. Those 10 commandments are based in natural law. You need to learn those. Do your best to abide by them so that you may have the blessing. Understand those laws. Study them. Do the best you can. None of us is perfect. We're all going to have conflicts in our emotions, conflicting interests. Some of us are going to be double-minded. Some of us aren't going to be able to make up our minds. But keep praying for guidance. Keep praying that Yahweh will show you His will. And then do it. That is how you work out your salvation. It's not by doing Jesus' will. It's by following His example. If you don't mind, please excuse me, I'll use the name Yeshua. You do Yeshua the Messiah's example. And His example was, He didn't do anything outside the will of His Father, Yahweh. So you really have to worship Yahweh, and you have to seek His will. You build that personal relationship. You build that Holy Spirit. The law is etched upon your hearts. And in case you're wondering, that word for heart isn't this organ that we refer to here. It really is the enteric nervous system. That rich connections of neurons and nerves from the vagus nerve. Your heart's on the vagus nerve as well. But that's your intuition. That's where your conscience is, if you will. That's where you get the feedback from. That's where you are integrated and you understand what these things are. You understand right from wrong. You don't need me to tell you right from wrong. You don't need to call me up and say what's right, what's wrong. You know that inherently, unless you're not one of His sheep. And if you're not one of His sheep, then you won't hear His voice, and you won't abide by truth and justice. So, Antarctica is supposed to be the place where these ships were buried. A while back, Google sent me all of these videos on Antarctica. I'd get 25 or 35 of them in the morning. I couldn't watch them all. End of the day, they sent me 10 more. I was immersed in that. A lot of that stuff was misleading. A lot of that stuff was designed to get one to worship Trump. Pretty strange. When you think about it, the blowing of the trumpets of the angel in Revelations. The first angel blew its trumpet. First angel poured out its vial. You need to read the book of Revelations. You really do. Take your time, because it'll take you some time to absorb it and understand it. Now, in the metaphysical universe, when I was a little boy, maybe 25, maybe a little older than that, I went and I took some extension courses that were taught through the community college. And I took a course in astrology, and there was an old guy there whose whole life he wanted to just go build a cabin and finish his life off by himself in a cabin. Man, he looked like a nut at the time, but believe me, that appeals to me a lot. And those hermits that I used to hear about when I was a little boy, man, those people are nuts. I'd never do that. Man, people are so weird. I'd like to go off and become a hermit. Actually, I kind of am. Here's where I am. I'm isolated. Okay. At moments like this, I'm going to take my time and I'm going to appeal to my Father, our Father, your Father, and my Father. Yeshua's father, Yahweh, and ask, what is the message? What is the message that my audience need to hear? Now, I know there's some great talk radio show hosts out there, and a lot of you think they're conservatives, and I'm going to tell you they're not. They're actually part of the problem. This great American stuff is a bunch of BS. Oh, you're a great American. Those guys are in on the takedown of America. They're warmongers, and they're out there trying to sell you on this war. And then that great guy that got the presidential award, you know, the one that did the dope and lost his hearing, he never mentioned this big battle or this fight. He never even voted in any of the elections, and yet you think he was a devout conservative. Out of all of them, I liked Michael Savage the best. He's got his foibles. However, he was willing to call out his fellow Jews when it came to this. Boy, I don't even want to mention the name. I don't remember the name. But this infant circumcision on the 8th day, where these rabbis sucked the blood off the doggone penis after it had been cut. Sickos. I don't know how many babies died from herpes infections because of that dirty practice. He called his own people out on that. Michael Savage, it's not his real name. He's Jewish, and the Jews got very upset with him for calling them out on their practice of infant male circumcision and using the lips to suction it off right because that was the only way to get a good seal, or some weird sort of rationale for doing this bizarre ritual. Is that not pedophilia? Is that not infantile sexual abuse and molestation? What do you think? I'm not sure. It's a good question, though. He was the best out of them because he could read his audience even from afar, and he could tell which way to go. He also established a flow of consciousness, and he was about as honest as a guy could get. I think the best compliments I got on the radio more than a decade ago were that I was better than Michael Savage, and I sat there kind of taken back by it. They wouldn't call up during the show and ask questions, and they told me it's because we want to hear what you have to say. Then one guy calls up after the show and tells me that something about Gamaliel, the fellow who taught Paul. Wow. They were drawing, and they alluded to me in that capacity. I don't think I can live up to those things. I don't even want to try. I'm going to tell you right now, 85% of the Bible is in the Old Testament. Only 15% is in the New Testament. The New Testament is less accurately translated than the Old Testament. You have to understand the Old Testament as a foundation to understand the New Testament. I apologize. I couldn't get this other channel going properly, and I'm also dragging my butt. I should have already read another chapter, and I should have followed up on the first Bible lesson. I'm going to call those Bible studies. I will call Bible readings when I just read straight from the Bible. I'll differentiate between those. I do need to make comments on the last presentation. I'm going to do that very soon. I'm going to get my Bible out, and we're going to read further. I don't think we're going to be making very fast progress because there's so much in there that you need to know that I want to tell you about. You're going to have more questions than answers. When you are educated to the level that I am, you understand the limits of knowledge, and you understand more about what you don't know than what you do know. So I'm going to take you to the limits of my knowledge with the hopes that some of you youngsters are going to want to carry the mantle, follow in my footsteps, do a better job, be 10 times better than I am. I had some great men for mentors. Going to be also doing shows in terms of psychology, psychological concepts. I'm going to call some of them Psychology 101, some Psychology 201, and some 301, and so on, to give you different levels. If you're a graduate student in psychology or you are a budding psychologist, if you want to know a research dissertation, a topic, I'm going to give you some ideas. Some of you can even tell me what the latest research is. I've stayed out of it in quite a while. I am so upset with my own profession because we've been used to destroy our own nation. Get Carroll Quigley's book, Hope and Tragedy, published in 1964. He actually had access to the New World Order. You want to call him the New World Order, but I got news for you. There's no such thing as a New World Order. This is the old world order from 50 to 70,000 years ago, brought forward and being marketed to you as the New World Order. It's the same old world order. My suspicion is that our purpose in being placed on the planet was to take custody of the planet and steward the planet for the benefit of all the inhabitants, and we did a good job until Adam fell. Adam owned this place for a while. Now the devil and his children literally own the place. You'll find the evidence for that in the New Testament, where the devil takes Jesus out, does the temptation, the 40 days in the desert, something like that, taking him to the top of the temple, telling him to cast himself down, that the angels will keep him from harming himself. Oh, and the key thing was, Satan says, worship me and all of this will be yours. So these people that have all the power on this planet right now, they worship him. Don't kid yourselves. The people in Hollywood are some of the worst people on the planet. I stopped watching movies. I got tired of their stuff. I suggest you do the same. Those people are horrible. They're terrible. Don't let them influence you. We get a good one once in a while, and they're just too rare, too few and far between. Then you get somebody like Harvey Weinstein that does all of that stuff, and Oprah Winfrey helps feed good-looking young white girls to them to earn their way in the hierarchy of fame in Hollywood, and they earn it on their backsides. Sounds like a tough gig. Yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to close it out on that wonderful note. Mr. Smith, I'm sorry for your pain and suffering. Stop simping. Get a backbone. You ought to publicly apologize to your brother there. Chris Rock, accept that apology when it comes forward. And do it in a big way. You can make Will a little bit self-conscious this time on that. Build him up. You can do that. Both of you. You need to work with my people to wake them up. You need to work with your people to wake them up. We need to join together and take down these bad guys that have a stranglehold on our nation. We also need to change these laws to strengthen the family. Because without the American family, we don't win. And I know the black family was destroyed before the white family was. And the Indian family's been destroyed along the way too. We need to build the families again. So strike up your values, boys. Sorry, I shouldn't be calling you boys, but I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean it the way that other men referred to their other men when they were leading them into battle. Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys that just were drinking buddies boasted about how, I can take Fort Ticonderoga with one arm tied behind my back. I really want to know who said that, if they said that, because they woke up the next morning becoming sober as they realized they had taken the fort. Folks, we can take this back again. Remember, at this point, it's a war of self-defense. All bets are off. They're using every which way possible to kill us. They know that we play by the rules. They know the rules and they use the rules against us. Isn't it time we called them out? Isn't it time we love truth and justice and the American way